Yes, ma'am. And I would like to mention that we will also be connecting to our YouTube live as well. So there will be consequently the Zoom platform and YouTube platform. Any question arises from there, I'll share it with you, ma'am. Yes.
All
Thank you
right,
so
sir.
much, ma'am. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, it is a privilege and an honor to be here today to discuss a topic that is shaping the future of innovation, creativity, law, and governance. The very artificial intelligence and intellectual property governance, ownership, authorship, accountability, and policy design in the age of generative AI. Before I begin, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Sanjay Bafna sir for his visionary efforts in promoting meaningful academic and professional discussions on such emerging technologies. His commitment to creating platforms for knowledge sharing and capacity building is something truly commendable. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Possible Education for providing me with this wonderful opportunity to engage with such an esteemed audience. Um, Initiatives like these, they too play a crucial role in bridging the gap between the technological advancements and their legal, ethical, and societal implications. As we very rightly stand at the intersection of human creativity and machine intelligence, we are witnessing one of the most transformative periods in history. Artificial intelligence is what I feel no longer a concept of the future. It is a reality that is reshaping industries, redefining ownership, and challenging traditional legal frameworks across the globe. Today, together, we'll explore some of the most pressing questions of our time. To begin with, who owns the AI generated creations? Can an AI system be considered an author or inventor? Who should be held accountable when AI causes harm or infringes intellectual property rights for that matter? And how can policymakers design governance frameworks that encourage innovation while safeguarding public interests? I would invite all of you to approach this discussion today with curiosity, critical thinking, and an open mind, because the answers to these questions will influence not only the future of technology, that's what I feel, but also the future of law, business, education, and society as a whole. Thank you once again to Mr. Sanjay Bafna sir and Possible Education for this wonderful opportunity. With that, let us begin our journey into the fascinating world of artificial intelligence and intellectual property governance. I shall share my screen. Uh, Sir, I'm unable to share my screen. It says disabled share.
Ma'am, one second, I'll just make you co-host. Uh, Done, ma'am.
All right, sir. Is my screen visible?
Ma'am, it's loading. I think, yeah, now it's visible, ma'am.
Okay. Am I audible also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Uh, Before discussing intellectual property rights, we must understand what AI actually is. Artificial intelligence refers to the computer systems capable of performing tasks that normally require human intelligence. These tasks include learning, reasoning, decision making, language understanding, and problem solving. Examples of such instruments include ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, um, in the latest times, even Midjourney and DALI. A particularly important category is the generative AI. Unlike traditional software that process information, generative AI creates entirely new content. It can generate articles and essays, videos, paintings and images, music compositions, computer code, and whatnot. The reason generative AI is revolutionary is because it challenges the very traditional assumptions regarding creativity. Historically, the process was very simple. Human creates work, receives then intellectual property protection. Today, the process looks different. Human plus AI creates work, but the bigger question is ownership becomes uncertain. Who holds the ownership? So the law was designated around the human creators. Generative AI forces us to rethink those foundations. Now comes the question of intellectual property rights in the AI era. Intellectual property basically refers to the legal rights which are granted to the creators and innovators for their intellectual creations. Now, if we broadly talk about, there are four major categories which are relevant to AI. First is the copyright. Uh, Copyright, when we talk about copyright, it basically projects the original literary, artistic, musical, dramatic, and software works. The to quote examples for a few could be books, paintings, films, computer programs. The future of copyright is not merely about protecting works. It is about defining creativity itself in the age of in artificial intelligence, if we would summarize a bit. Now next comes the patents. Patents protect the inventions and technological innovations. For example, pharmaceutical inventions, engineering innovations, novel technologies, and so on. Now, if we come to trademark protection, trademark is basically designed to protect the brand names, logos, symbols, the product identifiers. To quote an example, we can say examples include the Apple logo and Nike's swoosh symbol. Now, if we delve into the fourth concept, that is trade secrets. Trade secrets protect confidential information that provides the competitive advantage. Examples include the proprietary algorithms, secret business methods, confidential data sets. Now, AI basically impacts all four forms of intellectual property, making governance increasingly complex. Now, who owns the AI generated work? This is perhaps the most debated question in AI law. Copyright law is based on the principle of human authorship. Traditionally, an author is a human who creates an original work through intellectual effort. But suppose a user enters a simple prompt, generate a painting of a futuristic city. Within seconds, AI creates a stunning artwork. Now the question is, who owns it? The AI or the person who gave the prompt? Now there are several possibilities in this regard. First could be the user. One set of people, one set of school has this argument that suggests that user owns the work because they initiated the creative process through prompts and instructions. Now the second school of thought says the developer. Others argue that the developer, the other school of thought says that they created the model and therefore contributed substantially to the output. Now there is third set of school that says the AI company. The company who is operating the AI platform should own the output because it provides the technological infrastructure. And the fourth school of thought is no one. A fourth possibility is that AI generated work belongs to the public domain because no human author, actually created them. Now what happens is this uncertainty creates significant legal and commercial challenges for the businesses, the artists, and the content creators. Now artificial intelligence can generate content in seconds, but the law still acts as a fundamental, like there is a fundamental question that is posed before a law. Who is the true creator behind the creation? Now, um, coming to the next slide which talks about the international approaches to AI copyright. In this regard, different jurisdictions have adopted different approaches. If we talk about what United States has to say, so United States Copyright Office emphasizes human authorship. uh, Purely AI generated works generally do not qualify for the copyright protection. Only the humans created portions may receive protection. Now this, they have a different school of thought. They say only the humans qualify for the human authorship, because purely AI generated works, they do not qualify for a copyright protection, because initially their school of thought is that the intellectual property was designed to protect the human intellect, and it basically talks about the human intellect. Anything coming out of AI is does not basically qualify for any sort of copyright protection. Anything which is not coming out of human or human mind does not possess any kind of protection. Now, if we move to the second part of the world, that is United Kingdom, UK takes a more flexible approach. Its copyright law recognizes computer generated works. The author may be considered the person who made the arrangements necessary for the creation of the work. Now, if we make a comparative analysis between US and UK, so UK is not that stringent. They have found the probably the middle way to it. So they have come to this thing that any computer generated work could be recognized under the copyright law. Now, okay, in that scenario, the author may be considered the person who made the arrangements, like whatever arrangements necessary in order to come to that conclusion for the creation, or in order to get us a final product, or in order to get us for some sort of creation of that work. So UK was a bit more flexible as compared to US. Now coming to European Union, EU focuses on human intellectual creation. Meaningful human involvement remains essential for copyright protection. So now, after the referendum, when UK was no longer had to align with the European Union, so they had a different concept, and European Union was of a different opinion. They again, similar to US, European Union focused on the human intellectual creation. So anything not coming out of humans, not coming out of human intellect, was not qualify as something that could be protected. Anything which was dealing with human involvement remains essential for the copyright protection. um, to the extent humans are involved, to the extent there remains the human involvement in creation of something, protection is given. But anything out of the human ambit, they were not recognizing it to be worthy of copyright protection. Now if we talk about our very own country, India, so it currently lacks specific legislations dealing with AI generated works. So we you know we do not have any law which talks about or which deals about how AI generated works can be protected, or what actually we have to do with some case if we are stuck with AI generated works. And there is no certain law which is pertaining under now, under such of acts of us. But of course, when there certain issues when arise pertaining to AI, so we deal them under the Copyright Act, or copyright protection, whether they qualify. And then there are various things. But per se, if we say that if there's anything related to AI that we have a full-fledged law, then we don't. Existing copyright law in India assumes the human authorship. And similar to US and to EU, we also are of this opinion that anything which has to do with human authorship is what we are looking into. As AI technology advances, legislative reforms may become necessary. Now, uh, as we move into the AI technology, as we move towards the advancement of AI, legislative reforms are required, because then they might become very necessary before it becomes destructive, the AI, before it becomes uncontrollable. This diversity basically demonstrates that the world has not yet reached the consensus regarding the AI ownership. So the world is still not able to comprehend or augment with the very concept of AI. As machines become more creative, intellectual property law stands at the crossroads between technological innovation and human, integrity. So we are really at the intersection as to um, what better approach should be in when it comes to dealing with AI and human. So now next thing to deal with is, can AI be an author or inventor? So this question touches the philosophical foundations of law. Supporters of AI authorship argue that, okay, so now since the inception of AI, even in the Western world, so people are um, having different notions. So there are different schools of thoughts who promote AI, or there are different sorts of school who say that before you, if you don't control it in the time being, it will become destructive. It will destruct, to the creator itself. So there are various schools of thought which are, running in this mechanism. Now, to the supporters of AI authorship, they argue that AI creates the original content, AI can generate the novel outputs, AI sometimes appears way more creative than humans. Now, so this is very subjective. Can AI create original content? It truly depends upon the facts and the situation. Can AI create the novel outputs? Again, it depends upon the situation, to the situation it has been posed with. Now, okay, so there are chances that AI might sometimes appear very creative. So to the opponents who the opponents of the AI basically have certain things to add into the list. They say that AI lacks consciousness, moral agency, legal personality, and intentionality. Creativity is not merely producing output, it involves human judgment, purpose, and understanding. So, to the ones who said that AI basically is creative, so the people who were against this notion had to say that creativity alone cannot merely produce an output. So, at the end of the day, you want some work, you want some output. So, creativity always cannot get you the desired output that you want. It involves the human rationality, it involves the human judgment, it involves the purpose of the thing, and a basic human understanding of the situation of the thing that you want. So, in this regard, there's a very famous DABUS case. So, the DABUS is an acronym. It stands for the Device for the Autonomous Bootstrapping of Unified Sentience. One of the most famous examples is in the patent case is this the DABUS case. Stephen Thaler, in fact, filed the patent applications naming his AI system DABUS. The DABUS was basically, now what is DABUS? It is a creative machine as the inventor. So Stephen Thaler filed the DABUS as the creative machine. So he filed the patent for that very thing. So the applications were submitted in several jurisdictions, including United States, United Kingdom, European Union, Australia, South Africa. So, various patent offices and courts worldwide had largely rejected these applications, considering that the legal inventions must be of the natural human persons, as the US was of the view and the European Union was of the view that if the humans are not involved, there is no human psychology or the human protection, then AI cannot be granted any sort of protection. But significant thing to notice in this case is that South Africa made headlines by granting a patent in this recognized, a DABUS case. It recognized it as a patent. So this is the reason why this case is really very important. Now, next, if we come to training data and copyright infringement, generative AI systems require enormous, data sets for training. These data sets often contain copyrighted material, such as, now the copyrighted material could be of books, articles, images, music, software code. This has led to significant legal disputes. Now, perspective one is that of fair use. Supporters argue that training AI is transformative. The AI does not reproduce works directly but learns the patterns and relationships. Therefore, training may qualify as fair use or fair dealing. Now, there is second notion, perspective two is the copyright violation. Critics argue that copyrighted works are used without the consent and attribution and compensation. Artists and authors claim that their creative labor is being exploited. Now, this is something where the AI cannot beat. Authors and the artist very well claim that their creativity is coming at stake, that the labor, creative labor that they have gone through, that they have put through by mere AI delving into it, is being exploited. As a result, numerous lawsuits have emerged involving the authors, the musicians, publishers, and the visual artists. The decisions in these cases will eventually shape the future of AI development worldwide. So this is still a big question to pose. Now, the important crux and the important thing next to deal with is the accountability, ethics, and liability. AI systems can produce, many a times they can produce the harmful outcomes. Examples include defamation, copyright infringement, deep fakes, misinformation. A A critical question to pose here is, who should be held responsible? We have come across many such cases, deep fake images. Even in our own country, there are people who do not use AI judiciously. They use it for to do something illegal, do something that may cause, that may harm like the reputation of somebody, and then it may defame somebody. uh, there are also instances when copyright infringement cases have taken place. And not only that, using AI to cause misinformation, to provide false information to the public at large. So now the very question is, who should be held responsible? Current legal systems generally place the responsibility on humans and organizations rather than the AI itself, because ultimately, who is operating AI? Who is operating those tools? It is the humans. It is the organizations that are handling AI, and not the AI itself. Now, the ethical concerns continue to be, first is that of bias. AI systems may reproduce the societal biases found in training data. These are the ethical concerns. This can very well result in discrimination. Now, the discrimination could be based on the gender, race, socioeconomic status. The second thing that is important is transparency. Many AI systems operate as black boxes. They lack transparency to the core. Users often do not know how decisions are made, and the most important thing is that of privacy. Training data may contain personal information. uh, Improper use can threaten privacy and data protection rights. That's what I was discussing in the previous slide, that the users are so naive, or they do not know how to use it judiciously. So often, by using them in an improper way, can threaten the privacy of somebody else, the third party. And also, obviously, the data protection is always at stake. These rights are always at stake. So, excuse me, responsible AI governance must address all these concerns. So we need to strike a balance. We need to be very mindful of what and how we are using AI. Now, if we move into what are the global regulatory developments, governments worldwide are developing the AI regulatory frameworks. As we discussed, European Union, the EU AI Act is the world's most comprehensive AI regulation. It follows a risk based approach. Higher risk systems face stricter obligations. United States, the US generally adopts a sector specific approach. Regulation develops through courts, government agencies, executive actions. If we talk about China, they have implemented the stronger controls over the algorithms, the generative AI services, and the content moderation. India, on the other hand, seeks a balanced approach. The focus is on our very focus is on innovation, digital growth, and responsible AI development. Each jurisdiction reflects the different priorities and governance philosophies. If we say that now EU on that note has made a most comprehensive regulation. It is carrying a risk based approach, and higher risk systems face you know stricter obligations on that note. If we say US, if we say, has a has divided it in the risks into different sectors. Now now the courts, the government agencies, and the executive actions are the regulation that has been developed through. So again, China, they have a more strict, strong control over the generative AI part. Now if we talk about the policy design for the future, the future challenge is balancing the innovation and regulation. An effective framework should include the licensing frameworks. That includes the creators should have opportunities to license their works for AI training. uh, so these are the parts, these are the dimensions which should be taken into consideration in order to create an effective framework. So if we provide, if we license their works for AI training, creators should better have this opportunity, because collective licensing systems can ensure the fair compensation. Transparency obligations. Now AI companies should disclose the training data sources. What sources have they used in order to fetch the data, the training data. Data practices, what data practices do they actually follow, and the risks assessments. How do they mitigate the risks? What risk factors have they covered? What possible risks have they identified, and how have they made a strong plan of action in order to face or mitigate those risks? Then is the human centered copyright. Human creativity should remain central while acknowledging the AI assisted creation, because we should not forget this, the very concept of intellectual property rights was to protect the human intellect. So in any manner where we compromise human intellect, or where we compromise humans protection, should not be the aim. The first and foremost thing, it should be to protect the human intellect, because then only we can have a safer mechanism, and then only we can bridge the gap between the human intellect and when the AI will, humans and AI will come together. Accountability frameworks, responsibilities should be clearly allotted among. Now the responsibility should be divided among the developers, the platforms, and the users. The developers, first of all, who have basically developed this entire system. How careful were they? What frameworks have they adopted in order to be fair and be clear in their proceedings? And then of course the platforms, those are operating. So equal amount of responsibilities should be divided amongst all of them, the developers, the platforms, and the users. Of course the developers have developed it, platforms are providing the users to use it, but then it is upon the discretion and upon the human intellect of the users as to what they are asking from the platforms, and what they are doing it. They should do it rightfully. So the objective is not to choose between the innovation and regulation. It is never about you know between innovation and um, regulation, that two of them should compete amongst themselves. No, the objective is to create the governance system that supports both. So either of them are should not be in the position to compete each other, either either ways. The very objective should be to create the system that is comprehending both of them, that is working hand in hand with both of them, and that supports both. So while I conclude this session, artificial intelligence is redefining the boundaries of creativity, ownership, and innovation. The traditional assumptions of intellectual property law are being challenged by the technological, technologies that are capable of generating the content independently. So we basically, I tried to explore the four central issues. Those were the ownership of AI generated works, the authorship and inventorship, the future policy frameworks, the accountability and the ethical responsibilities. So at present, if we say, most legal systems continue to place humans at the center of intellectual property rights, which should be the rightfully so, which should be done rightfully so. However, rapid technological developments may require substantial legal reform in the coming years. So, in the coming years, while all of us try to adapt uh, this very new concept of what AI actually is, so rapid technological developments would only help us in order to reach our goal, may require the substantial legal reform, the the legal reform that we want in the coming years. Because again, as we said, we cannot escape from this very AI. We just need to use it the right way. The future of AI governance will depend upon our ability to balance the innovation, creativity, accountability, and the public interest. One last question that for all of you, which I would like to pose is: let's say tomorrow, if AI, writes a best-selling novel, okay, uh, so whom do you think the copyright belong? Like, whom will the copyright belong to? The user, to the AI company, or no one at all? So these are the such intersections, like when all of us come to such intersections, is when we realize that, is the AI responsible, is AI to be granted, is the human to be granted, is the platform that is operating it to be granted, is the particular question. And so we need a strong balanced legal approach to it, and innovation and the regulations, all of them should go hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now the floor is open for questions. If any participants want to have any questions, they can please unmute themselves and they can ask their questions. Ma'am, there is one question I would like to ask.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, what do you think in the country like India, uh, which is like a developing country, how should
Yes.
we take the AI in school education system? How should we inculcate the early exposure of AI to the students, children who are still in school, whether it is good or bad, or like how we can path create a pathway for the better implementation of AI in the early stages. Like, because when we come to the governance part, of course, it comes with a lot of administrative structures coming in. But when we are talking about AI, I have seen the US model. They have incorporated the education of AI into the very early stages of school systems. But in a country like India, where still the most of system still runs on like on blackboard and chalk, or I'll say like with very frugal type of resources. So how that can be I think structured, and how the governance should be planned around it, and how the implementation should happen around it.
Very rightfully said by you, sir. So, as you mentioned, I'm an assistant professor. So the college where I'm teaching right now has already introduced the AI as a subject in our curriculum. So we have already added uh, artificial intelligence as a subject. We have also added introduction to robotics as a subject in our curriculum. So, so for us, the what we could do was at this level. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So as I said, that we have already added into our curriculum. So the schools should also, because no child, I feel, at today's age is devoid of, smartphones, or is devoid of Chat GPT or Gemini for that matter. Fifth grade kid is also is not. Something is not new, so no concept is new. So we cannot practically, um take or ask students, for that matter, a school going kid or a college going kid, or for that matter anybody, to not use Chat GPTs or to not use any AI based models. Rather, we should, as we have done in our college system, in even for the at the elementary level, at the school level also, the governments, like specifically the CBSEs schools and the ICSE boards, the education system at the school level should very well, introduce the AI as a subject to the students, in order to teach them in a right manner, so that they and also teach them the consequences of using it uh, abruptly, or using it, in a wrongful manner. So when we bring this at a very elementary level, this will teach them the good and the bad aspects of both the, both. They can see both sides of the coin. And very rightfully, I have also because I'm also engaged with one NGO which works in government schools, which works for the betterment of the government schools. So the previous week, this was my suggestion, in order to add certain things in the curriculum. So we basically deal with those things. We teach them those modules which are not taught to them in their usual curriculum. So this was one of the suggestions which I suggested just last week, that AI teaching is something which should be incorporated in the schools. So I very rightfully feel so also, that sooner or later this will become the part of their curriculum, and it should become a part of their curriculum. We are not wanting them to, shift them away from what is going on in the world. We have to have a technological, because the students, the childs are, of course, the children are the future of our country, and they should very well know the consequences, the pros and cons of it, and they'll only know it when they are taught in a rightful manner. So it should be incorporated in their curriculum.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. On behalf of Possible Education, I thank you for your time and taking us through this very important topic of AI and IP governance. Uh, uh, rest all the participants, thank you so much for joining. And those who have registered, they are going to get their certificates through the mail. And those who have just joined through the Zoom link, please drop me a text with your name and your designation. We will send you the certificate respectively. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Looking forward to many more. Thank you, sir.